Hi, friends. Thank you for tuning in to the Concussion Coach podcast. I'm Bethany Lewis, the Concussion Coach. I'm a neurological occupational therapist and certified life coach, and I specialize in guiding people through their concussion recovery journey. I am passionate about helping people understand their injury, speed up their recovery, and reclaim control over their life post-concussion. The purpose of this podcast is to help increase awareness of concussions and the impact they can have on a person's life, and to bring hope to people who have suffered a concussion and those who love them. I firmly believe that sharing stories and knowledge about concussions will bring important light and understanding to this misunderstood and often invisible injury. The information in this podcast is meant to bring that awareness and hope and is not meant as medical advice. The opinions shared are those of the interviewees and my own. If you are suffering with lingering concussion symptoms, I have created a concussion coaching program specifically for you. I will be your mentor to guide you through your recovery journey, offering help with understanding and managing your symptoms, setting achievable goals, and learning how to manage your own thoughts and nervous system in order to get control over your life again. If this program sounds like something that would help you or someone you love, sign up for a free consultation. In the consultation, you'll get valuable information and resources and gain hope for your future. Sign up for your free consultation at the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Concussion Coach podcast. Before I introduce my guest today, I just wanted to make sure that you all know about the free guide that is available on my website. It is the 5 best ways to support your loved one dealing with a concussion. So if you have a friend or family member who is struggling with post-concussion symptoms, or you're the one struggling and would like your loved ones to know more about what you're going through and how they can help, head over to my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com, and download the free guide. I am so excited for our conversation today. My guest is Dr. Sean Drake. I met Dr. Drake at a recent Rezzimax Pain Tuner conference. So shout out to Sherrick Peck, who is our mutual friend and the inventor of the Rezzimax. And thank you to him for creating an opportunity for our paths to cross. I'm really excited for this conversation. So I will introduce Dr. Drake a little bit and then let him add anything else that needs to be said. So Dr. Drake is a highly accomplished professional with a wealth of experience in the field of sports-specific movement and recovery care. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Florida State University. Dr. Drake furthered his education by earning a master's in sports health science with a specialization in sports injury management and human performance, as well as a doctorate in chiropractic from the Life University in Atlanta. Dr. Drake also teaches breathwork and nervous system training for the human experience to lead individuals to their highest and most authentic self. Dr. Drake served as vice president of On Base U and Racket Fit, where he helped develop systems and protocols for the rotational athlete with Titleist Performance Institute. With a remarkable track record, Dr. Drake has treated a diverse range of individuals, including everyday athletes, business executives, and professional athletes. His clientele includes athletes from every major sports organization, including MLB, NFL, NBA, PGA, LPGA, ATP, AVP, and X Games. Additionally, he has served as a team doctor for Nitro Circus and the Do Tour, providing invaluable medical support and guidance. I'm really proud of myself for getting all of those letters straight.
I'm really proud of you.
So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that people know, our audience knows about Dr. Drake?
No, I think the biggest thing is let's get into the conversation. I think that's why people are listening. And I think it's really important that, they understand how important the brain, the body, and the nervous system is, whether you have been diagnosed with a concussion or you have concussion-like symptoms. And we'll go through that during this conversation. So let's get started.
Awesome. Love it. Okay. So right now you run a clinic for athletes. Is that right? Called Modern Athlete. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we jump into more about concussion specifically?
Absolutely. So I think the thing is that my practices continue to evolve. Like it said, I was with On Base U and Racket Fit and TPI before COVID happened, and then COVID happened, and everything shifted. We were doing a lot of seminars, consulting, coaching, and then the world kind of shut down. So we had to kind of shift how we did things. We went online. And during that time, I came out to Scottsdale to learn how to skydive. And my partner at On Base U and Racket Fit was like, hey, you need to open a clinic. There's some athletes that want to see you. I never thought I'd be back in practice. And we'll talk more about my history. But, we ended up opening the clinic, started with athlete chiropractic that evolved into athlete empowered. And then we rebranded to Modern Athlete with an E. And the reason being is that as I've evolved into where we're at in our clinic now, I realized how important the nervous system is first and then everything else second. Ironically, I'm going to bring a guest on real quick because Gary's here. Gary, come on in here. I'm going to put you on a podcast. Come sit in the solo dome. Come over here. So this is Gary.
Hi, Gary. Nice to meet you.
Hi there.
So
Welcome
this
to
is
the
Bethany.
Thank you.
So she's got a podcast on concussion and brain injury. Just talk a little bit about, how we've kind of obviously been together for 4.5, 5 years. What happened, where you've been, what you've done, and then what we've done over the last month.
Well, back in September of 2021, I was stricken with West Nile virus, and I'm often asked how I got it, but I guess you get it from the bite of a mosquito that has bitten an infected bird. So the odds of really getting infected with West Nile virus, the odds are very, very high. But that particular day, I passed out in my back bedroom. My wife called 911. I was hospitalized for the following 3 months. For the first really 2 months, I was pretty delusional, but I was pretty much bedridden. I couldn't walk. And then just before Christmas of 2021, I was well enough to be released from the hospital, and I came home, but I was in a wheelchair, and I had to use a walker to get around because I couldn't walk on my own. And I used my house as kind of a training ground with the walker and walked in a circle around the kitchen area and family room, and until I reached the point where I could actually walk. And I disposed of the walker, and then continued my therapy. And then I met Sean, and Sean and I have been working off and on together for probably 3.5, 4 years, since I got out of the hospital. And we've done a number of things, but recently his business model has changed a little bit, and he's focusing a lot on more of the neurological aspects of recovery. And really that's what I've needed, because over the years I have done, massage therapy, acupuncture, hyperbaric chamber, theta chamber, you name it. I've done it all, and nothing has really allowed me to progress until here recently, the last couple of weeks. Sean has sort of broken through and sort of awakened my body to the point where I'm walking better. I'm probably a little less dizzy than I literally have been dizzy every day for the last 4 years. And here recently, there is some breakthrough. And I can't expect, this to occur overnight. My recovery is not going to happen quickly. It's going to be a process. But I believe that the things that Sean is doing are clearly helping me, working on my legs and my brain and all kinds of different electronic therapy. It's wonderful. And I can't thank Sean enough for his new track in business, and the knowledge that he has and the work that he's done on me. I'm deeply in gratitude to him for all the work that he's done. I'm looking forward to the next several weeks to continue this therapy and continue to try to improve. So that's kind of a nutshell. I kind of rambled on, but
no, you didn't ramble at all. I think that the big thing that you got to understand is that he played in the league in MLB, and he's been an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurs are athletes. And I think that this is really good for the community to understand, is that when people are like, "Oh, Dr. Drake just works with athletes," I'm like, if you have a body, you're an athlete, and if you have a goal and a dream for life, life is your sport. And I think what's really cool is that when you're working with clients, a lot of times they'll show up, and Bethany, you know this, and you see it all the time, where you see the light inside the patient or the person in front of you. And, they've got all this darkness, and they've got this depression, and they've got all these different emotions that are attached to the injury or attached to what happens after the injury. And, can I talk a little bit about some of your emotional breakthrough that I think is important?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because one thing that we're going to talk about on this podcast is I don't just go after, quote, the brain injury. We work a lot of neuro-emotional. We have a lot of different, therapies and modalities that we use to help process some of that, because it's this stored energy and blockage that's holding some people back, because they start to think about it, it triggers, and all of a sudden you get that response that, and so for me, one of the greatest things is, Gary's been a big mentor of mine. He's like a second dad to me. And it frustrated me because I couldn't help him for the longest time, because I didn't understand, quantum neurology. I didn't understand, how Rezzimax works. I didn't understand, you take all these courses, but until I really started understanding how to really challenge the nervous system. And not only that, but giving at-home exercises with the Rezzimax with Gary. He's sticking to it. His eye movements have improved. And when he tells you that he couldn't walk, like he could barely walk, and he's literally running around our clinic now. It's almost like a kid where you got to be like, hey, like slow down a little bit. But we do capacity exercises with Breathwork. We use, he's sitting in a solo dome right now, so we're using sound frequency. So it's not just about, quote, saying we're going to do brain care. It's like we're doing full body, mind, soul care. So as you're working through your brain injury, you've got to have a way to create stress in a safe environment that allows you to adapt to your original process of where you were. And so instead of putting somebody on a bike and exertion training to say, okay, they're ready to go back to play, I'm doing it in different ways of saying, okay, well, let's challenge your body with vibration. Let's challenge your body with sound. Let's challenge your body with, energy. And let's find out where your capacity level is before you crash. And so as we start to learn these levels, now we can go ahead and we can start to create a plan of building that capacity up so they're not hitting that trigger response and crashing again. Sorry to just pull you on the podcast, but I figured you were here, so it'd be fun.
No, I enjoy telling my story because I think it's a bit compelling. But I had this West Nile virus, and I also had meningitis when I was in the hospital. I had C. diff. I had to go back into Mayo Clinic to get that fixed, and so I had multiple things, and I'm just committed to try to overcome these things, and I'm willing to try just about anything to if I can get 50% better, I'll be really happy. But at the end of the day, I'm thankful to be above the ground because I almost lost my life. I was very close. The night that I went into the hospital, there were two other gentlemen there that were also stricken with West Nile virus that weren't so lucky, and they passed away. And I was close. I was on a ventilator for days, and it was. I have to look at this realistically. I have to be very thankful that I'm even here, that I'm even moving around. So, and with Sean's help, I'm improving. So that's the main thing.
Well, thank you, Gary. I love you, man.
Love you, man.
Awesome. So that's our amazing Gary, and he's definitely had some breakthroughs, and there's tons of stuff that we do in the clinic. So I just think it's really cool sometimes, and you'll notice on podcasts that I get on, if I have a patient in here, I'll pull him over and be like, hey, let's talk. Because there's nothing like a real life experience to actually talk about what we're going to be discussing. Yes. And I know that was a West Nile case, but I want to make it a really clear point that it doesn't matter the injury. It is a nervous system brain dysfunction. And so really, I think we're evolving in what we look at when we look at quote brain injury, or you know what I mean? And when we talk about concussion, post-concussion syndrome, secondary post-concussion syndrome, there's a lot of cool things out there that I think are so important that aren't being discussed because people don't want to go outside the box of research sometimes, you know what I mean? And they're like, well, if it's not in the research, I'm not going to do it. And to me, I'm evidence result focused. I'm like, okay, if it's working, I'm going to do it. If it's not working, I'm going to find another way to do it. And that's, ultimately how I found Sherrick through, George Gonzalez at Quantum Neurology. And, if it wasn't for George Gonzalez, and I'll say this on this podcast, and I get goosebumps as I say it, if you are struggling with any major thing that nobody's figured out, find a quantum neurologist somewhere in the United States. There's some amazing ones. Noah Moose is down in Austin, Texas. You've got Kelly Farmer that's in the Salt Lake City area. You've got Ed who's down in Louisiana. I mean, I can just go name off some amazing practitioners. But when you really look at what's going on with the neurology, this is how we're going to see breakthroughs in brain injury.
Yes, it does come. It comes down to the neurology for sure. I love that you are bringing that up, and I am actually really interested in you talking more about the neuro-emotional piece, how emotions are tied to the injury. How did you come to that knowledge, and how do you treat that, or how do you incorporate that?
So I think it came from my own personal experience, right? I had several concussions as a kid, and I was diagnosed with ADHD and all these different issues, and it wasn't until I found, chiropractic and I started to look at, breath work and really going into the depth of healing emotional trauma with, everything from EDMR to tapping to breath work to meditation to energy work to all these different, philosophies, that I really started to learn how important it is for the glymphatic system to be drained. And so often we chase the spinal manipulation, or we chase a dysfunction in the eye movement. But one thing that we miss a lot of time is the lymphatic system. And it wasn't until I really dove into the lymphatic system that I saw a change in myself. And that was through Flowpresso, working with Freddie and the team over at Flowpresso, explaining, because I always thought, okay, yeah, getting this thing's really comfortable. But as I started to understand lymphatic even more, and I started to look at the fascial system with Stecco and a couple other groups, I realized, holy cow, I'm not as brain fogged as I used to be. I'm holding my adjustments better. I'm starting to look at like toxicity in a different way. And so when I started to do that with myself, because I'm always trying to train smarter and efficient in sport, right? And so I use myself, and people like to say lab rats. I don't like that because I hate hurting animals. But I really look at myself and I'm like, okay, I'm going to challenge my own body with these ideas, these theories, these processes, you know what I mean? And through the biohacking world with Dave Asprey, and I can go down the list of amazing people there, but they have really pushed the limits of longevity. And so I think longevity is a great word, but I think when we really look at it, all we have is right now. How do we make ourselves resilient within the moment that we're in? And that's constantly what I'm starting to really play with now as we're looking at, quote, brain function, brain injury, or brain disorders. Because if it is truly a brain issue, there's definitely an emotional piece, 100%. There's probably some type of toxicity piece. And then more importantly, there's a capacity piece where you're just not able to process or perform because your body's either overwhelmed metabolically and can't handle the stress, or you can't actually control the oxygen, ability of your body to actually work with the brain.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. There's so much there that we could work on unpacking. I am interested in hearing how you do, you've mentioned a bunch of modalities. What are some of the modalities that you have found to be most effective and helpful as you're helping people through all of these different aspects of recovery?
Number one, breathwork. I say that all the time. Every single room in our clinic has a different style of breathwork. So we have everything from calming to excitatory to full on like conscious connected. So when we look at like brain health, the more that you can train your body and your breath, that's when you can accomplish anything. And it's free. Like I tell people all the time, like, it's so expensive to heal myself. And I'm like, is it? Or are you not willing to do the work and take the time to actually sit still and like be still and try to do it? You know what I mean? So number one modality is you. Like I say this to everyone, like you are the modality. At the end of the day, you've got to be responsible for your body, your mind, your soul. Then from there, I think when we're looking at brain injury, I think PMF is probably one of my favorites. I think when we're looking at pulse electromagnetic field therapy, I think PMF to me is one of the biggest ones. Sound, vibroacoustic is massive for me right now. All the research, you can look anywhere online. Everybody's like, oh man, sound's healing cancer, sound's doing this. And they used to call us woo-woo for doing sound baths and like using tuning forks. But the reality is all we are is sound, light, and vibration. So now science is finally catching up and the medical world's like, I'll adopt this. So I think sound, and when you start to look at different apps and like frequencies, obviously I'm sitting in a solo dome right now and we use sound therapy from everything from autism to elite athletes. And so, they got Solo Tones apps. We got Freak Athlete launching for athletes for like brain performance, brain mindset, calming, excitatory, getting excited, getting ready to game. So it sounds a big one. The next I would say is, a vibrational, some type of vibrational with breath. So like shift wave, we use a lot of shift wave in our clinic. We use vibration. We use two different types of vibrational systems. We use a Juvent, which is going to be a micro vibration. So if somebody's got a major injury or some type of like disorder to where they can't handle the stress, especially post-concussion, I'm not going to throw them on a power plate where I'm going to stress their system. Instead, I'm going to throw them on a Juvent and I'm going to build that strength and stability in their system first and allow their brain to be like, wow, this is safe. I'm okay. I can do this. Then we build them into, I think lymphatic, I talked about Flowpresso, Roxiva, which is a bright white light. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, I have brain injury, I've had a seizure, I've had this. Now, again, there are contraindications to some of these things. But once we get to a certain level, I've got to challenge your brain to create neuroplasticity. And I can't do that working out because you may not have the ability to, but I can use light to stimulate your brain to thinking that you're working out, to now actually start to work some of those, metabolic and new pathways. Let's see what else. I mean, I have so much. Hyperbaric, hypoxia training. I'm getting heavy into hypoxia training for brain injury right now and brain performance. CO2 training. So we actually have a CO2 where we're actually breathing CO2 now. So when you look at CO2, breathing CO2, what it does is it creates a better permeability of your tissues. So it actually allows the hemoglobin to actually take on more oxygen. And then we have hyperbaric, obviously, which is really good as well. So if you see a common theme here, oxygen and lack of oxygen is really important when you're trying to heal the brain. Those are a few of the modalities, and cold exposure.
I love it. Okay, yes, that was just a few. Can we focus in for a second on the breath work? I think that piece would be really interesting to dive into and hear more of. I would be interested in hearing how you got into it and what, if you have any things that people could do who are listening to this, who could try it for themselves after listening.
Yeah. So growing up, I was a military kid. My mom was supply and my dad was special forces. And, I was ADHD and I had tons of anger issues and all kinds of things that I couldn't sit still. I probably still can't sit still. But my dad was really big on breath work as a kid, and my mom too. And they would have me do 6 seconds in the nose, 6 seconds out. My dad would have me do box breathing, 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. And he would have me do heavy breath work before workouts or when I get super stressed to just get my energy to move in my body. So we would do one thing you guys can do at home, especially if you've got a brain injury or you don't have the capacity to work out, is just start the clock with 5 minutes and just try to sit there or lay down if you can't sit up and just breathing in and out your nose 6 seconds and keep it consistent and try to get to that timer. Work your way up to 15, 20 minutes. The cool thing about this is now not only are you working the oxygen saturation rate of your body, you're actually creating a new stability level or a new capacity level for your nervous system. So you're training the body with a stress that's not a full physical stress. And so that's why I think when I talk about breath work, it's so important.
That's brilliant. I really love that and appreciate you sharing that because it's honestly the first time I've heard someone recommend that. But I think for people who feel like their exercise tolerance has been depleted completely, this is a great place to start. You don't have to be moving your body. You're just focusing on the breath. And it is incredible what the breath can do. It can really work the inside of you so hard, even though you're not even moving your body. It's very, very, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. With nervous system regulation, it sounds like you've been in this for a while and you're understanding it. I heard that you recently did an Ironman with little training. Is that accurate? Can you tell us about?
Yeah, so it was more of a science experiment, right? It was a half Ironman at altitude, and I chose the half Ironman at altitude because we live in the desert, which is no altitude. And I said, okay, well, I've got Ultraman coming up in October. What could I do with my theories that if I can only train for 2 weeks for a half Ironman, how could I do it to where I regulate my body, I'm safe, and I don't spike my heart rate? And so I literally used all of our tools that I use with our clients to build capacity. And so, I started with, vibroacoustic therapy and meditation, visualizing the race, visualizing what was going to be tough, seeing myself push through that, right? And be in flow instead of stressing out. Then what I would do is I'd move to high Gauss PMF with nano V oxygen. So I'm actually allowing my body to get energy. I get goosebumps when I talk about this. I love it so much. But then I'm using high Gauss energy to bring my energy capacity up in my body. So I'm working out while I'm on the table without physically working out, all my cells. I'm using nano V, which is basically a restructured oxygen with light frequency. So what's cool about this is that it's increasing my ATP and mitochondrial effects of the body. It's decreasing protein folding. And one cool thing about this is it's helping out with oxidative stress. So I'm preparing my body for the stress I'm about to put myself into. Then I did 10 minutes of CO2 training. So I put my body into a metabolic stress. So I made my oxygen, all of my tissues more permeable. Then I said, okay, well, what else can I do? So I went on the Vasper and I did a 20-minute workout on the Vasper, which is equivalent to 2 hours of stress, which is basically blood flow restriction of your lower limbs, your upper limbs, and it's putting about 46-degree water through those cuffs. So it's cooling your body down while you're working out. So you're tricking your brain into thinking that you're doing 2 hours of stress in 20 minutes. So what does that do? Well, that drops my cortisol, that increases my growth hormone. So now all of a sudden I'm in this amazing state, whether it's my brain, my body, my mind, my soul. Then I jumped on the hypoxic trainer. So now I'm in hypoxia trainer at 10% oxygen for 30 minutes. I'm doing 10-minute intervals. I've got DC current on a newbie on me. I've got the Rezzimax Vegas nerve stimulator on the green. I've got a Zen Bud on with another Vegas nerve stimulator. I've got a laser on my head. And I'm basically like, I'm doing like I'm trying to get my breath into 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out. And when you're at 10% oxygen, that's really hard at first. But I just trained my nervous system to be safe. And when I got done with that, I jumped in the cold exposure at 32 degrees and saw how quick I could catch my breath. So the quicker I could catch my breath under that stress told me, okay, I'm safe, I'm resilient. Then I went from there and I got on the shift wave for an hour on the guided with an hour Roxiva, full on like, breath work, and worked out all the stress, the tension, the flow. And then I got on vibration after that. And so I did that for 2 weeks straight. Obviously, I altered my workout throughout it. But because I did that, and this is what I do with my clients in my office when they come in for 3 or 5 days, is because what we've got to do is we've got to break you out of what you think is comfortable and safe to get you to the next level of what's the most opportunity and like the most best version of yourself.
So when you say you do this with your patients, not all of the things that you just did in the degree that you do it, right? Like that you did it. You don't do that.
So no, so my elite athletes, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And congrats. How did the Ironman go? Was it
It was amazing. Like it was the happiest Ironman I think I've ever been a part of. And I was so in the moment and present because when you're training like that, you can only be present because you have to be aware of every single feel, every single I'm looking at my heart rate. I'm looking at my, oxygen saturation rate. I'm looking at, okay, how do I feel? And then not only that, I'm like, okay, I'm testing my cognitive skills. So, I'm literally, I've got blaze pods in front of me. I'm working on my blaze pods. I'm answering questions. I'm counting backwards from 3, then 7, then 10. I'm trying to create a story. I've got, a dartboard that I'm throwing stuff at to try to like make sure that I've got things going. So when we're in that stress, now we're actually training the body to be resilient.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. I know since we met through Sherrick and we have this love of the Rezzimax, can you tell our audience a little bit of, I'll let you explain what the Rezzimax is really briefly and share how you use it in your clinic.
Yeah. So honestly, I just found the Rezzimax about 2 months ago from George Gonzalez. And then, immediately I saw they were having a seminar and 2 of my buddies were teaching there. And so I flew up. But since then, the Rezzimax, every one of my clients and my patients now get a Rezzimax. It's part of our protocol. It's got multiple built-in frequencies, everything from like vagus nerve calming parasympathetic to sympathetic to overall just awakening the body is what I kind of call it. It's like my awakener, right? Like, so I'll start with my feet all the way to my head, go through my fingers, go through my body. And what it's doing is it's telling your body, hey, these areas are alive. They're moving, they're functional, they're safe. And through that, when I'm working, especially my cognitive side, I've got a mouthpiece here that I hook up to it. I put essential oils. So I'm working the olfactory of the cranial nerve, which is a big deal with a lot of brain injury, is that we actually lose our senses. We start to lose our cranial nerves. So the more that we can stimulate these things, the better results we're going to get long term. So then I'm doing my eye movement. I'm making sure I'm doing my X cross patterns. I'm doing my arcs above and below. I'm doing my accommodation. And then beyond that, I'm doing single eye. So I've added in like eye patches now, where I'm actually working within one eye system, especially with balance. So I'm actually working different, deeper parts of the brain as we're starting to, work with my clients.
That's awesome. Have your clients enjoyed it? Like, have they had good results from it?
Honestly, every single one of them love it. And here's the thing is that I gamify it with my clients because I know I'll call you out. I'm like, you're not doing your eye exercises. You're not working your feet. Because the minute that I start to work on your feet with the Rezzimax, if you haven't been doing it, it definitely does not feel great at first. But it's my no BS test now. I'm like, you're either doing it or you're not. And, we've gotten to a point now where I'm like, if you're in our clinic and you're not doing your at-home exercise, I just fire you. I'm like, this isn't the place for you. I don't accept mediocrity in here.
I can see you're a good fit for the people that you're working with. I can see how that would be the case. Tell me about, with post-concussion syndrome, identity loss is a big struggle. So how do you help people move from a mindset of being broken to transforming?
Well, I never use the word broken. I never use the word diagnosis. Now in my medical notes and things like that, or like reports, I'll use it. But when I've got a client in front of me, I literally look them in the eye and I say, you are limited. There is a limitation in your system. That's it.
I love that.
We have to unlock that limitation. The minute we unlock that limitation, anything is possible. And that limitation could be physical. It could be emotional. It could be energetic. It could be situational. It could be geographical. And so we have to figure out what these triggers are, and we have to figure out why they keep showing up. And, what's hard for me sometimes to see, especially when you're looking at an athlete on the TV or online that's struggling with depression, there's a lot of talk of, plant medicine right now helping out with like PTSD, brain injury. And I'm very pro plant medicine. I will say that. I just don't think it's for everybody. And I think that, with what we've been able to use with modalities now, we can get the same results without using it. So I think some people absolutely, it's a great method for you. But on the other hand, I'm like, you are the medicine. You have all the energy inside you and you have all the ability to do it. You just have to be put in a safe, vulnerable situation of where you're able to feel. And most people that are injured, they don't have a safe place to feel. They're being told you're injured, you have a problem, you have this, here's the next thing, here's the next thing, here's the next thing. Versus looking them in the eye as a human being and seeing their soul and saying, look, yeah, this is horrible. I see you. I hear you. Let me actually show you who you are again. The minute that we got Gary to finally literally skip, he was like, wow. And I got him into golf posture again and he was able to rotate. He's like, I feel the ground. I'm like, now we have a connection back to who he is. And so when you're working with a brain injury client or you're working with somebody with post-concussive, they're attached to who they were. And I saw this a lot in snowboarding and when I worked the Dew Tour and I worked with Nitro Circus and X Games and a lot of extreme sport athletes, when they have a major injury, that's all they know. And I skydive, I'm a very adrenaline type junkie. When you are shut down, it's bad. So what's cool is that through these modalities, I can literally trick your mind into thinking that you're skydiving, that you're on a bike, that you're doing these things. And so there is no difference of you actually being on the bike or in your mind. And so through that and through these challenges, whether it's vibration, sound, light, cold exposure, high temperature heat, PMF, whatever modality I'm using, I'm simulating your life within your body. And now we can actually start to heal.
I actually really, really love that and can see how that would be really transformative. You're right, because people need to be stressed and challenged. Their body needs to experience that in safety. And that's key, that safety. And I love the idea of being able to help people feel that intensity, that what they're, the love for what they do in their body, without doing it, and then building up to being able to do that again. I think that's really, really powerful. Something that I really want to emphasize on this podcast is hope. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic with hope in relation to concussion recovery. I know that people and hope is kind of a tricky word sometimes. So I'd love to hear how you approach it, what your experience with it in your own life and your own recovery from injuries, and how you help people in your clinic develop it.
Number one, hope is everything. I mean, it really is. If you are with a practitioner and you don't have hope, you're probably in the wrong place, right? Like you're inherently, your intuition, your cells, everything is going to tell you that you're on the right path. Like all the answers are inside you. And so for me, one of the things that I love more than anything is, and by the way, I think I spend more money in our clinic on tissues than we do anything else in the clinic, because I want my patients to have that breaking point of breakthrough, not breaking them, but that breaking point, right? Like, where have they not been able to finally, because there's so many things out there right now where they don't listen. Like, there's so many pathways where you go and they're like, this is your brain scan, this is your diagnosis, this is what it is. And then there's no follow-up. There's no and so you lose that hope, right? The first thing I tell people is I may not have all the answers, but I'm going to do my best. And if I can't help you, I'm going to find people that can. That right there tells them, look, I love you and I don't know everything. So if I don't, you better bet it, I'm going to find the right team around you to do our best. And that's why we have a community that we have. And that's why I'm so blessed to have the team that I have. Like Gary says, thank you to me. No, this has nothing to do with me. Like my team is a rock star team. Like when you walk into our clinic, there is an energy, it's a portal, it's a quantum realm. Time does not exist in here. I tell people, I'm like, if you have a time schedule, this is probably not the clinic for you. Because sometimes it might be a 3.5 hour appointment. Sometimes it's literally a full day here for 5 days. Like I had a guy fly in, hadn't walked in a year, 2 weeks ago. And he's been to every single person up in the Seattle area. He got referred to me through one of my pro baseball players' dads and came down in a wheelchair. And within 3 days, he took 3 steps. By the end of the week, he was able to jump up and out of the chair. Now, he doesn't have the strength, right? So now but when I looked him in the eyes, I said, look, do you believe in God? No. Do you believe in yourself? Not anymore. That broke me. I said, okay, if I can get him to believe in himself again over the time that I have with him, I've done my job. And by day 3, he looked me in the eyes and I said, I believe in myself again. By day 5, he looked me in the eyes and said, I believe in God again. And so at the end of it, and this is not a religious conversation, this is truth. We're conscious connected beings. And at the end of the day, take all these modalities away. The fact that you're willing to sit in front of somebody and listen and say, look, I'm going to give you my best, everything I have. And if it helps you, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm going to do my best to find that. That's what most people need right now.
That is what most people need right now. That's so beautiful. And I wish that, it would be a wonderful thing if everyone had that approach. So thank you for being that for people. And what advice do you have for people who are dealing with a setback and are struggling with that hope?
So I would tell you this. Number one, setbacks are an opportunity for like a step forward. Like, here's the deal. And I know it's cliche, but, read the book Peaks and Valleys, by Dr. Spencer. He was an MD. And when you're dealing with trauma, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is, you're going to have setbacks. And the reason that you have setbacks is to show you how far you've come sometimes. Like if you go to the gym, like look at a setback more as a soreness. Let's change the verbiage around this for a second.
Yes, please.
It's not necessarily a setback, right? It's just a response. It's a check engine light of, okay, something changed. I look at that as a positive thing a lot of times. Like even with Gary, like last week, he's like, man, I had a little bit of brain fog this week. I haven't had that in 2 weeks. He literally like 2 days later is like, holy crap, my vision's better. I was able to remember things that I haven't remembered. So is it really the brain fog or the setback, or is it the fact that you are resetting? And it's a new training opportunity. And so look at yourself as still as a person who can do anything. And use these moments to say, okay, well, what now can I improve on? Or how can I turn this depression or this anger, this low energy frequency into opportunity, into joy, into peace, into calm? Because a lot of times when we have those setbacks, it's a high sympathetic state. So this is really cool where if you have a vagus nerve stimulator, like a Rezzimax or a Zen Bud or something like that, now all of a sudden you can shift your nervous system into a calm state, and now you can kind of see it with a clear vision versus a clouded, windshield.
Yes. I think that is so true. If you can calm that system, then you have access to that higher thinking where you can see things more clearly and be more rational and have that perspective. I think there's our mutual friend Kaylee that was also at the Rezzimax conference with us. She has an analogy that I like to share. I think you will appreciate it when it comes to setbacks. We're going to use that in quotes because I like what you're saying. Let's reframe that. But she said, it's kind of like being a catapult. Like if you're in a catapult, it feels like you're being pulled backwards. It feels like you're going back, but really it's propelling you forward. It's going to be an opportunity to really move the needle and really move you forward. So, and that, again, it may be hard to access that when you're in the back part and you feel like you're making those steps backwards, but it really is an opportunity for progression. So I appreciate your perspective on that. I know we're getting short on time here. Are there any other words of wisdom or words of hope and help for people who are dealing with post-concussion syndrome that you would like to offer them?
take it deep. I know that you're all about the concussion side, right? But like any minor injury to the body and brain is a concussion. And so many people have not even like looked at that, right? And, I look at, we're seeing so many brain injuries that are concussion-like from looking down at phones, from being on, screens all day. Like your eye movements are moving so much. So my biggest thing is, number one, check your balance, check your movement quality, take a cognitive test, see where your baseline is right now. And then start to add some of these tools. Order a Rezzimax, go through their program, reach out to Bethany or myself and my team, you know what I mean? And start to be proactive in your care. One of the supplements that we're using right now in our clinic is from Wizard Sciences. It's called NeuroRx. And it's a phenomenal, tool on top of like, we've got so many amazing opportunities right now from a biochemical side that, clean up your diet. Like that's a big key one for me, sugar, inflammation. But if you're dealing with it, find the right people, find the right team that you feel comfortable with. And the other side of this too is that at the end of the day, remember you are the modality, and that just like a race car, you can be tuned up and you may not ever get back to where you thought you were, but if you can improve from where you are, that's massive. And so, get a whiteboard or get Post-it notes and write your wins out. Like what did you do this week? I do this with a lot of my players that get concussed that can't play. I give them exercises to do throughout the week, or I give them like their little wins, and I gamify everything. And I'm like, put Post-it notes up. What was a win today that you weren't able to do yesterday? And at the end of the week, look at how many Post-it notes you have up. And the thing is, if we don't see it, we don't really understand it. And so it's a really good way for you to see how you're really progressing. You may not be progressing on your SCAT score or some of your QEMGs or some of your other eye movement tests right off the bat, but you can start to see how it is in your life. People will start to see a difference in you. And so if you can start to really look at that, then I really think that you can come at a different approach versus saying, oh, I've got a brain injury or I'm injured. Instead of saying, no, I got a limitation, I'm working on that.
Yes, thank you. I think that just that emphasis on where we place our attention and focus, that is what grows. So if you're focusing on those wins and the ways that you're making progress, I think that is really powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. How can people work with you or learn more from you, hear more about what you do?
Yeah, so our clinic's Modern Athlete is in Scottsdale. At Dr. Sean Drake on Instagram is a good way to get a hold of me. The biggest thing is we're going to be hosting a lot of cool stuff coming up. Modern Athlete, we're launching our, modalities course for practitioners to actually learn how to use modalities with your clients, the way that we use them and our processes, our procedures. And the cool thing too is that, I do virtual consults. I opened that up 2 months ago and it's going really well. We're doing virtual, appointments, and we're also working some different systems now that are helping people while they're not with us physically. But, I tell people, I'm like, if you can give me 3 to 5 days, we'll definitely shift and change your life. And then we've got to find ways to keep you consistent and working on your patterns, your programs, your processes. So those are some of the ways.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much. We will put all of those in the show notes. Thank you for everything you're doing for people. It's really fun to watch like from a distance here. I'm like, oh, this is really, really cool. And really understanding the nervous system makes all the difference in the world. So I love that you're doing that. So thank you. And thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Bethany. Thank you.
I'm so glad you listened in today. I hope you have gained some helpful insights and inspiration regarding dealing with and recovering from concussions. My goal is to create more awareness and education about concussions and the fact that there is so much that can be done to improve life after someone has had one. Help me spread the message by liking, commenting, rating, and subscribing to this podcast, and share it with others who would benefit from hearing it. There are more resources available on my website. And again, if you or someone you love would benefit from concussion coaching, sign up for a free consultation using the link in the show notes or at my website, www.theconcussioncoach.com. Thank you. See you next time, and take good care of that amazing brain of yours.